Hey, this is Paul, long-time listener, first-time caller. I just watched the episode. You guys are ragging pretty hard on the new streaming service Max for its dumb name. And while I agree that Max isn't the best name, I guess my question is, do you think maybe they're dropping the HBO branding so that it's easier to either sell off this streaming service in the future, or so that if they acquire other intellectual property, it'll be easier to throw onto the streaming service? You know, if you make this service exclusively an HBO service, I remember it was confusing, like, oh, but DC is also there and Cartoon Network. You know, it was a bunch of different brands under one umbrella. So does that maybe redeem the name for you a little bit? Interested in your thoughts. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Lofcon. Obviously, I got our thing. We got another hotline coming up a little bit with Dune and the Marvels. This one's about HBO. And, of course, yesterday we talked at length about the confoundingly idiotic decision to take the name HBO out of HBO Max. I mean, there are companies that will work decades to build the prestige and brand identification of an HBO. They are synonymous with the highest of quality, the best shows, the best success. HBO, the term HBO, whether that's a good term or not, is synonymous with all of that. And companies kill to have that. The decision to take that out of the name of their premier streaming product is just the wrong decision. Now, look, I tried to say this yesterday, but it might have got drowned out in all of our sarcasm. At the end of the day, the name of the service won't mean all that much. Okay? Won't mean all that much. Except for the fact that the naming conventions can cause confusion if you don't do it right. Well, again, yesterday we talked about the fact when they launched with the name HBO Max, it was in an environment when already running was HBO, HBO Go, HBO Now, and then they followed that up with HBO Max. And all four of those were a thing at the same time, which caused a lot of confusion with the audience. And I think taking out the name HBO might do a little bit of that. But again, long-term, it will not affect how good or bad the quality of the service is. It is just a name. A stupid name, but a name nonetheless. All right? Much like Peacock. It is just a name nonetheless. So it's not that big of a deal. But it does raise up the question that they're just asking about some of the reasons that maybe perhaps was behind their rationale for wanting to make these like really stupid decisions about, naming it just Max. And so let's go over to the classroom here for a second and we'll take a look at this. So one of the things that they've just brought up is the idea that it might make it easier to sell the service later. And that is, look, I can totally see why your mind would go there first. Like, hey, whenever you make changes to anything, maybe it's to try to increase value, that you have a more valuable commodity on your hands, that if you are looking to sell it later, it might make it easier to sell later. It's a good question. It's a good theory. The problem, though, with that theory is that the name HBO makes it more valuable. I think just the name HBO makes this thing a lot more valuable. And I actually think taking out the name HBO actually lessens your ability to sell it later, or might lessen the value of it as a property a little bit later. So I don't think that's it. Now, the other point or possible reason why they might make this change that the caller brings up is maybe it'll make it easier to add different content. Like they said, on HBO, you got DC stuff, you got Cartoon Network stuff, and moving forward, it's not unreasonable to believe that Warner Brothers will look to add and acquire more content, more categories of content, if you will. That's a legitimate one. My counter to that one would be that, well, just because you put Nat Geo and Pixar and Marvel under Disney Plus, it doesn't mean you take the name Disney out. Well, I mean, if it says Disney, you got Disney Animation is on there. You've got like all this kind of stuff. You still keep the main overriding brand name because Disney is a valuable name and a valuable IP like HBO Max was. But again, that could make it possible. One of the reasons why you would consider, or they would consider, changing the name. Maybe that's one of them.
You call it Nat Dizpix.
Yeah, that one would work. It's a place to go for HBO. All right. Another one that I hear talked about a lot is the idea to reflect the wider offerings they have, i.e. Discovery. To reflect the wider offerings they have, like Discovery. Now, listen, while it was still confounding to a lot of people, then when you look at Warner Brothers and you look at Discovery, you would have thought it was Warner Brothers buying Discovery. But it was the other way around. It was Discovery buying, Warner Brothers. And therefore they own HBO. And maybe there are remnants of the Discovery people who think it's disrespectful to them to just keep the name HBO because that wasn't our thing. Listen, if I'm David Zaslav, I'm looking at those Discovery staff and saying, suck it up. It's what's better for our business. Like, I get it. You've been working on Discovery. That's great. But now this is a part of us. And get over yourself if you're being preciously hanging on and clutching your pearls about, but our name is a Discovery thing and it's not respectful to us. Oh, get over it. This is business and this is better for business. But again, maybe even just philosophically, it's like, well, if we just leave the name HBO in there, maybe it will create some confusion about, well, wait a minute, my Discovery stuff won't be on there because that's HBO. And maybe taking the name out is one of those things to kind of reflect a wider option of content. I could totally see that was maybe and probably a part of their discussions about going on with that. Now, when it comes to possible reasons here on this list for HBO being dropped from the name of HBO Max, that's all I got. I don't really have anything else other than that, like for legitimate reasons why they would drop it, other than David Zaslav apparently felt the letters HBO were holding them back from their destiny.
Well, I mean, this may have inched them even closer to their destiny, but I noticed another change just in their imagery here. So Exhibit A, this was yesterday, the one to watch for HBO.
Right.
Today, the one to watch. Ooh. And here, the one to watch.
They heard your complaint.
So they may get another change.
This was clearly a reaction to the ranting on the John Campea Show. So I don't know, maybe they'll use that, the one to watch for HBO, and maybe that will become interchangeable, like the one to watch for DC, the one to watch for Cartoon Network, the one to watch for Harry Potter.
Could be.
I mean, maybe that becomes an interchangeable kind of slot that they can move in and out. Or maybe they just realized overnight how stupid it was to take the name HBO out and say, the one to watch to HBO. It's kind of dumb. So, Chris, let me go over to you. Mm-hmm. You see my list here that we have of possible reasons behind it. And listen, while I may disagree with some of these reasons, they're legitimate topics of conversation to have about whether or not to change the name of a thing. Can you think of any other reasons on top of the ones that I have here on this list as to why they decided to make this change from the name?
I mean, really, I think we cover it here. The biggest thing is the name change is just a symptom of all these other issues that are going on this. And that's the big issue of all this content merging together, right? And so it's just trying to have a more homogenized version of their content. And they decided to do that with Max. The other things that they're working on are much more important, too, than the name. As dumb as we all might think. Each time I hear it, I just think of the Grinch's dog. Like, that's what I'm going to watch.
True. That's right.
That's what I'm going to go on. But, they're trying to optimize user engagement. Their platform currently doesn't have what all the other streaming platforms have, where they make recommendations based on what you've been watching. They don't advertise their own content to you of, hey, if you liked this, watch this, like things like Netflix, Hulu, and other streamers do, which is really, really basic stuff, right? The user experience on HBO Max, now Max, isn't as streamlined as other ones too. So when you're finding all this stuff on here, that's the sort of thing they need to start fixing, not just the name. So as silly as it is, I think it's just bless you. I think it's just kind of a symptom of more changes we're going to be seeing with all of the programming and distribution of their properties. All
right, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, the name is done. And while I think it's a dumb name, it is just the name. I mean, ultimately, this doesn't change the quality of the service or how good the shows are going to be that comes out. Not at all. But When you think about it and their rationale, what do you think were some of the main pushes behind it to change the name and to drop HBO from the name title? Whatever you guys think those might be, jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. We want to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. From the gas pump to the grocery store, your utility bills and favorite streaming services, inflation is everywhere. Seriously, make it stop. Thankfully, there's one company out there that's giving you a much needed break. It's Mint Mobile. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know that ever since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've been saving almost 70% a month over my old phone plan. For people looking for extra savings this year, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. By going online only and eliminating the traditional cost of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea.